Welcome to the Flip Learning Network podcast. I'm your host, Troy Cockrum. The Flip Learning Network podcast is brought to you by the EdReach Network, bringing educators a voice, a big voice. This week on the podcast, I'm trying something a little different. I was at the Indiana Google Summit this past week, and I used my Google Glass to interview Kyle Pace. So here's my interview with Kyle Pace. Okay, I'm sitting here with Kyle Pace. Kyle Pace was in my Google Teacher Academy, so we've gone back several years.
Yeah.
We're at the Indiana Google Summit in Evansville, Indiana. Kyle, can you tell us your role in education?
Yeah, so I was an elementary classroom teacher, and after that, for the last 10 years, I've been an instructional technology specialist. So I'm one of 4 for my district that provides instructional tech, PD, K-12. We support 2,000 teachers and 18,000 students.
Wow.
So it's busy.
And how many people do you have in your department?
There's 4 of us.
Okay.
There's 4 of us. So we stay busy. We stay busy for sure.
And how long have you been doing that?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
10 years. This is year 10 actually that I've been doing that. So it's been good. I've learned a lot.
And there's probably been a lot of, particularly over the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of change in the technology.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I remember back when I started this position, the technology was very much about, it was very much teacher-centered, interactive whiteboards, using this tool, that tool, whatever, to deliver a lesson or to deliver a formative assessment of some kind. There wasn't a ton of student interaction at that point, but then that's gradually evolved where it's more and more the kids are becoming the center of the technology use and really getting kids using the technology, and now it's come to getting more devices in student hands.
And that's interesting. You mentioned the interactive whiteboard because I got one probably about 6 years ago, and I was one of the first in my school to get it.
Yeah.
And then like 2 years ago, everybody else was getting theirs, and by that point, I was like, I don't use mine.
Right.
You can pull mine off the wall and move it to somebody else because I don't hardly ever use it. So.
Yeah. I think they're great. I think they have their place, but again, and I always tell teachers when it comes to something like an interactive whiteboard, your students should be using it and touching it more, the same amount, if not more, than you are, So don't make it just about you using it to disseminate information, drop knowledge onto your students. So.
This will air after your closing keynote, so we're not going to spoil anything for anybody.
Okay.
What the title of your keynote is "Be Inspired." Is that correct?
Be Infectious.
Be Infectious. That's right.
Infectious.
So what's this overall theme or the idea that you want to get across?
So the overall idea that I want to get across this afternoon is, now that we've all been here for 2 days, soaking up, being sponges of all this great Google knowledge and soaking up all this information, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do to go take this and go back and be infectious with this new information, with your excitement about these new things that you've learned? How are you going to go be infectious to the other people in your school and in your district and your students? How are you going to share that with them? So that's my main message, and just giving them kind of that charge of here's what you need to do and here's ways you can do it, and talking about, face-to-face ways we can do that, more traditional ways we can do that, but then also talking about getting yourself connected in digital spaces and ways you can do that digitally as well, that will have a broader reach just beyond your classroom or your school or your district or city, state, etc. So and it comes down to sharing. The bottom line is it comes down to sharing. We need you to try it. We need you to refine it and be okay with it not going perfect the first time. Because there's been a lot of talk about kids needing to fail, failure and new iterations of things because of that failure. So trying it and refining it, trying it again, but the most important thing we need teachers to do is to share it, and we need that infectious spirit that they have. We need them to spread that.
So, what are some places that you would suggest, or how would you suggest they share? Where's a good starting point?
Yeah, so we're a good starting point. It could be something as simple as asking for some time at a faculty meeting. I mean, when we're looking at face-to-face ways to share, it could be as simple as that. It could be simple as an email, even. Just sharing out, starting it with the people that you interact with daily. Starting with those people first, trying to get some time with them. Hey, this is what I learned. I really want to share with you what I learned this weekend. Here's why I think you would really like it. Here's why I think you should try it with your students. So that could look like being at a faculty meeting. That could look like District Professional Development Day, asking for some time. Just spreading your genius, and passing along that knowledge that you've learned. And that could also be something like going to an ed camp also, and that's a great way. Ed camp is 100% participant driven, so we need people at ed camps to share what they've tried, new things they've learned, what's worked, what hasn't worked, how they made it better. We need more folks. We need more folks to do that. And I think we don't rely enough. We don't look to our own people enough within our buildings and within our schools and within our districts at the knowledge that they have and the genius that they have, and I think we're too quick sometimes just to farm that out, and strength from within. So,
and we have we had a new principal last year, but this year she said we're going to stay a few days after the school year and do professional development.
Yeah.
That was a new thing for a lot of teachers.
Yeah.
So I talked to her about it, and I said, can we do an ed camp one of the days?
Absolutely.
And she goes, I hear you talk about this ed camp, and it sounds like a great idea, but she's like, I'm just nervous. We would all show up, and nobody would have anything.
Sure.
And it would just be sitting in our rooms, doing what we normally, isolated planning work or something.
I organize an ed camp, so I still worry about that every year. You get to that point where everybody starts showing up in the morning at an ed camp, and as the organizer of one, I always have that moment where like, oh my gosh, what if nobody signs up to share anything? But it never happens. It never happens, because there are so many people that are doing such cool, innovative things, and they're willing to share. And so that's that willingness to share. We need those willing hearts. I call them, that are willing to do that and willing to try new things. And so we need to be infectious to those people. We also have to try to be infectious to the people that are maybe a little slower to come on board with things, a little more hesitant, I guess, sometimes. But we just got to share and reach people, and they spread the Google love,
So I come from a mass media background. I've got a master's in mass communication.
Yeah.
So in like advertising or trends, there's a push strategy and a pull strategy.
Right.
Where the push strategy is, in essence, if you visualize it, you're behind something, pushing it forward.
Right.
And the pull strategy is you get out in front of it and make it try to keep up with you. You pull it forward.
Right.
And so I kind of apply that the same as, pushing education. Do you stand behind and push the slower ones, or do you go in front and expect to pull the other ones towards you? And I'm more of a pull strategy. I like to be out in front, and if somebody doesn't want to keep up, I'm like, it's their loss because I'm going
True.
forward. What's kind of your strategy?
Oh gosh, probably a fair amount of both, I think, but I probably would lean more towards pull. Like I said, those people that we've deemed the willing hearts that are they're the forefront. They're at the forefront. Anything you throw at them, they're like, yeah, sure, great, I'll try it. This looks awesome. I'll try it. They're just gung ho. They're excited. Those are those infectious people, and I think sometimes you just have to take those people with that kind of spirit. Kind of have to just take those people along sometimes and just let them kind of try it and let them, but they also they kind of set the bar, and so those people that need the encouragement or need or that have the hesitancy, they'll come along. I think they will, but yeah, I think it's more of a pull. That it needs to be more of a pull than a push, because if you do too much push, they're going to get turned off really fast, and they're just going to shut down, and they'll be like, why are you trying to do this to me? I mean, and you look at a company too, you think of a company like Google, and I mean, I remember talking to someone from Google one time, and they said they still have people at Google that use Microsoft Office, okay, which is weird to think about because, they run a multi-billion-dollar company, on their core suite of Google apps, but they're very much about letting people change in their own time, letting them come forward and letting them make that change at their own speed, and not pushing anything on them, like saying you will use Google Docs, you're not going to use Microsoft, here at this company. And so I thought that was interesting, and I think that's a good model. I really do, and I think that's a good model of leadership, for those leaders to say, look, we recognize not everybody's going to move forward at the same time. We are going to need you to move forward. That's not you can't let that be your cop out. That can't be your cop out forever. But we're going to recognize that, not everybody moves at the same pace.
Right, and I think, just speaking of the Google Glass, I get tons of questions about, well, what can you do with it? And I said, Google's not thinking about what you can do right now. They're thinking what you can do 2 years from now.
Right.
And they know that there's going to be people that say, you can't. That's a worthless product. It has no use.
Right.
And they're like, but it's going to have a use, or some version of it's going to have a use.
Well, just like that awesome example you shared with me yesterday about
the guy that wants to use it for special needs students?
With the special needs students, yeah. I mean, just something like that. I mean, put, a student that needs that. I mean, he's got his teacher right here, He's got his teacher right here. His teacher can see what he's seeing, and even though they can't physically be present with him, I mean, he's got him right there, when he needs him. And you think of an environment where every student has a pair. Yeah. It's then no longer who can remember the most information, because they all have access to the same information. Right. So it's as far as accessing information, it's who's most efficient, but then it's what do you do with that information and who can use it the best. Right. So I see that it's really changing the environment as well. Yeah. I also heard, this is a few years back, I think it was Larry Page that still used Outlook. Yeah. And he said, until you can make Gmail good enough for me, you're still not good enough. Right. And so. Right. Yep. So yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, to be in education right now, because I think, we have there's a lot of people that I think are really starting at getting, at the start of something big in education. So they're really kind of pushing the envelope with what we're doing, what school is looking like, and making school not look so much like school has looked for the last 100 years, and technology is just a small piece of that. We're looking at, and just when you think of things, just like, not making school look like school. Talking about, just like physically not looking like, the typical classroom, and just rethinking learning spaces and all that cool stuff that comes along with, and the technology piece comes along with that. I think we're and then throw in the blended learning and the online learning and all that on top of it. And I think we've got some places that are at the start of something big. So it's exciting. It's fun to be a part of it.
So one thing I run into, and I'm sure quite a few teachers do, is the parent component of, even if the teachers are ready to totally revolutionize what they do,
right,
and the students are embracing it, there's going to be some students that are still struggle for whatever reason,
right.
and the parents say, well, that's not the way I was taught,
Yeah.
and it was fine for me, and so there's a parent component.
Right.
That's even a little bit slower than our slowest teachers that say, we don't want to change because it's worked fine.
Right.
So how would you respond to that?
That is an area that I'm very passionate about, is what we do for parent education and how we, PD for parents. I think we need to be doing more for parents. I just don't think we're involving them enough in these conversations especially about technology. Just think Google Apps and Chromebooks. Okay, just think about how big those two things alone are. My example that I share about that is one of our elementary schools. They have done. They did back in the fall. It was the 3rd and 4th grade teachers. They did a parent learning night, and it was focused around Google Apps and the Chromebooks. And so all the 3rd grade parents came in from this time to this time, and then the 4th grade parents came in from this time to this time. And what was awesome about it, number one, it was getting the parents there to learn about it was solely focused on learning about Google Apps and Chromebooks. There wasn't any other hidden agenda behind it. There wasn't a PTA meeting happening, at the same time where they needed like a majority vote on something for a PTA. But it got the parents there, and what was really cool about it, the teachers just did a brief intro right at the beginning and then handed it over to the students. So the students, with every student had a Chromebook with their parents, the students took their parents through and taught them about, here's how I use the Chromebook, here's what it does, here's how I use Google Docs, and so on. Here's Chrome apps that I use at school, and here's what I use them for. And so it took parents through that. The student took their parents through that, and it was really powerful. And it got parents really excited and interested, and they were there. They were asking questions, and they saw the power in that. They saw the power in that device, and they. I think a lot of those kids had Chromebooks on their Christmas list probably after that, because and parents knew what they were then. Parents understood them more, and so I don't think, and you don't even have to say Google Apps and Chromebooks. I just think technology use in schools, social media use in schools. I don't think we do enough to educate our parents on that. All the digital citizenship, digital ethics stuff. Just don't think we do enough for them. And I think parents are eager. They're more eager than we realize to learn about that stuff. So.
And I've noticed, especially with social media, I've got middle school kids, and the kids are getting accounts now in like 2nd and 3rd grade.
Right.
And the parents don't know any better.
Right.
And then, I start talking about appropriate use, and like you said, parents are coming in and are like, can you tell me more? What should I be looking out for, and what should I be concerned about? Because they want to know, and it all changes so fast. The kids are on it right away.
Right.
Because the kids don't think, what are the negative consequences of this? And so the parents are, like you said, constantly asking to want to know more so they can keep up.
Right.
So, and they're looking to the schools to do it because they don't know where else to look.
Right.
We did a one-to-one Chromebook rollout this year, and we did falter in not teaching the parents enough about the Chromebooks.
Yeah.
And it didn't cause a huge issue, but early in the year, we gave the parents the option to buy another device if they wanted.
Right.
But we said everything's going to be supported on the Chromebooks. If you choose to buy an iPad, we can't guarantee that everything will work that your student is required to do, and we're not going to support it at school.
Right.
And we still had some parents choose to buy a laptop or an iPad because they thought that was more practical of a device.
Sure.
And then some of the ones who bought the Chromebooks were like, my kid hates it. And then we found out the kid hated it in like the first week and loves it now because they've found it. And so the kids are going home and still using it instead of using their parents' home computer with Microsoft Word. And the parents aren't realizing how much they're using it.
Right.
And so we realized, about November, we need to educate the parents a little bit more and let them know how these kids are using it, and the kids are loving it.
Yeah.
So.
And talking to kids about it, involving them in that in the process too, I think is important. I don't think we tap into our students enough just about school improvement in general.
Yeah.
I think we need to involve students in a lot more conversations also, because that can be huge. I mean, and when students know that their thoughts are valued and their opinions are valued for something like school improvement, something that's going to affect the entire school and something that's going to change learning potentially for all students, and I think that speaks volumes to the school and the district when they make sure and involve students in that process and they listen to students. And my superintendent, he's a great example. He's on Twitter. He's been on Twitter since not very long, I think since the summer, and he does a great job of interacting with students on Twitter. He makes a point, and sometimes it's just a lot of, can we please have snow day tomorrow? This time of year.
Yeah.
He's been getting a lot of that. But he's also, students will ask him legitimate questions, and he makes a point and takes the time to respond to every single student. And I think that's huge, and I think that I think for those kids to go, wow, I've never really had any, probably never felt any kind of connection to the leader of our district like that, and that he's putting himself out there on social media and he's taking the time to do that. That speaks volumes, I think. And that speaks to his leadership and his willingness to listen to students. And
I think it also models appropriate use, or
absolutely.
If kids get on Twitter and they don't understand how people use it, they just, if they see you using it as a professional tool, they realize, oh, this has more uses than just what Justin Bieber had for breakfast.
Right. Absolutely.
So who are some of the thought leaders? Who do you think is kind of leading education? Who are some of the people that my listeners should be looking for?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. Oh, man. So many good, there's so many good people. Just anybody, any like classroom teachers or directors of technology, anybody like that?
Yeah.
Gosh. Jenny Majera in Chicago.
Yeah.
Works for Chicago Public Schools. She's a digital learning, I'm going to get her title, digital learning coach, digital learning leader or something for Chicago Public Schools. She's doing some really, really cool stuff with kids.
One other thing I like that she's doing is with the size of her district, she's pushing a lot of companies to get their products to work on Chromebooks because she's saying we've got X amount of students using these. We need your product to work.
Absolutely. Gosh. So many people. Tom Murray, who's director of technology in Pennsylvania. He's doing some really cool stuff up there with moving technology forward. A friend of mine, Melinda Miller, she's an elementary principal down in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
She's a great technology leader and just leader in general of her school, but she's bringing on some one-to-one with Chromebooks down in her district or at her school. Great. She's fantastic at building such a positive culture in her school, and around technology, and she's getting a lot of her teachers on board and interested and excited about it. And so she's a great leader, great example of leadership for those teachers. Oh my gosh. There's too many.
Yeah,
there's just too many. I'm trying. It's hard to narrow. It's hard to just. Gosh, I could easily type you up a list. I could just type you up a list.
I think back to our teacher academy was loaded with people.
Oh yeah.
And I.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I didn't realize it at the time how many big people were there.
Yeah. Adam
and Ramsey and Jack DeHaan, and I was just like, afterwards I'm like, I was in the same room with these people, you know. And
absolutely. Yeah, Stacy Beamer.
Yeah.
In Iowa, she's in Iowa. She was in our group. She's doing a lot of great stuff with Google Apps. Really solid. So
yeah.
So many good people. So many good people we need to just tap into.
Yeah.
That's part I want to talk about this afternoon too. Is like, did you guys realize? Did you realize? Now, yeah, we got to start here in our schools, but do you realize who is out there that we could tap into?
Yeah.
And share with, and
So how can the listeners find you?
My website's kylepace.com. You can find me at kylepace on Twitter. So it's pretty hard. They can always connect with me there. Plus Kyle Pace on Google Plus. And so connect with me. I'm easy to find. So I'm always willing to help too, and I'm always willing to share, help people share the great things that they're doing too. So it's a good time. It's been a good run. It's been a whirlwind 5-6 years for me that I've been on. Since I delved into the social media realm.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing. It's been amazing. I know some really, really awesome, smart people that help me be better all the time. So that's what it's all about. It's being better, helping yourself be better, and it doesn't have to be by leaps and bounds, and always. But
well, I love conferences like this too because people speak a common language, and there's. Yeah. People ask questions, and other people know the question they're asking.
Right.
And it's not, can you explain that more? Because I'm not, and so there's people that can answer your question so easily that doesn't have to be the leader in the room. It can be the person sitting right next to you because everybody's at a common level and has a common, ideas. So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. This was fun. Good time.
So that was my interview with Kyle Pace. Let me know what you thought of the interview. You can send me an email, you can tweet me, that's probably the best way. You can also leave a comment on the EdReach network page. And let me know what you thought of the interview with Google Glass and Kyle Pace. If you'd like to see more interviews using Google Glass, I'm certainly willing to do those and see how many I can work in. So share your feedback. We'd love to hear it. So until next week, I'll see you again soon.